Distance is a space-themed action-adventure survival racing game where the objective is to get from start to finish as fast as possible. If you're not good enough, you're expected to get good or don't play. Distance is by far one of the best racing games I've ever played, especially in that rewards skill and determination over luck and spamming. Well, usually anyway. Distance is also home to an active Steam workshop, and you can actually make your own tracks right in the game, very much akin to Portal 2. Some of these are cheat tracks so you can get achievements easier, and others are for you to actually test your skill against the best of the best. This is where we separate the boys from the men. So let's have a closer look at Distance. I'm Dark Lord Elliot. Distance was developed and published by Refract, officially released to the world on September 18, 2018 for Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and Steam Deck, and has since established itself as a firm racing game of choice. Distance has, however, been available on Steam as far back as December 9th, 2014 as an alpha. Most of the discussions also date from back then, and very few people seem to actually talk about this game today. Even SteamDB shows that statistically there are at most 36 players of this game at any given time. Distance is unfortunately underrated. Let's see if we can't fix that. So first, before anything else, Distance has the best original soundtrack in the history of racing games, full stop. Distance's soundtrack is comprised of music that's high adrenaline, bass heavy, get up and go, real music. Every track in the soundtrack is either a banger meant to get you going or well suited to the track that it was made for, and I enjoy every last one of them. Distance's soundtrack alone gets a perfect 10 out of 10. Jordan Hemingway and the Quiggles, you're killing it. Never stop being great as you are. Gameplay is pretty much what you expect from a racing game, and all the controls are the same as anything past GTA 4. Specifically, the controls are the same as Burnout Paradise, for the most part. However, Distance has the ability to allow or disallow certain features of the car for specific maps or specific segments of maps. One example is flying. Distance allows you to jump the car with square, and then square again in the air will make the car fly, assuming that feature is allowed. This makes it so you have to time things very carefully and intentionally. You can also pair the jumping with downward force from the thrusters to make you land even earlier. This becomes very necessary for some races, as there are jumps that are spaced too close to be able to make without forced downward thrust. Controls for Distance are extremely tight and responsive. It feels really good to drive, but unlike other racing games, there is no handbrake. Distance was built for speed and stunts, so drifting really has no place in Distance. Also, I noticed that when the car explodes, which is pretty common, it seems to be ultimately random. I think that has to do with various variables, but I really don't know. Case in point, I managed to get my car stuck in this tree and actually got a good look at the driver. This should have been an explosion, but for whatever reason, it was not. Racing in Distance, if you're boosting, you'll have to periodically cool down your car. This is done by driving through dedicated cooling systems, driving through a checkpoint or teleporter, or by doing stunts. Your car will explode if you don't cool it down beyond a certain limit, but that limit is highlighted on the taillights. I can't count the number of times I'd had a race taken from me because my car was maybe 6 inches from landing, having done a barrel roll, but the car was too overheated. Nothing is more disappointing. Oh yeah, speaking of, Distance also gives you points for stunting. One stunt is wall or ceiling riding, which is counted in feet to give you an idea of how fast the car is going. Now, Distance is exclusively a PC game, which means that it has keyboard mouse control. However, Distance is actually fully usable with a controller, so I paired up my PS5 controller and have used that for almost the entire time I've been playing Distance. Unfortunately, my PS5 controller is on its way out as the left stick has some pretty bad upward drift, but my PS4 controllers work fine too. Only downside is that no matter what the controller you use, I think Distance only uses Xbox button prompts. Not a big deal, but it would be nice to be able to see PlayStation buttons on menus and whatnot. Anyway, I've been told that keyboard mouse is harder to learn, but easier to master. But controller is easier to learn and harder to master. Since I've been using PlayStation controllers for driving since about the age of 7, so at least 20 years, I think I'm well into the category of used to it. I only seriously started using keyboard mouse when I started getting into Portal, specifically at the age of about 13 to 14. However, I haven't really tried using keyboard mouse for distance, especially since Steam has driver support for PlayStation controllers, and those can use regular Bluetooth. And, well, honestly, I usually only see a reason to use keyboard mouse on first-person games. Third-person is usually definitively controller. Graphically, Distance is also very impressive. Distance has real-time reflections, which is not to be confused with ray tracing, but the effect is very similar. You can also customize the color of your car with primary, secondary, accent, and sparkle colors. There are also 5, technically 6 cars in the game, but they all drive, handle, and act the same. So I guess you could say the cars are just for looks. This makes Distance completely fair and balanced for beginners. There will never be a legitimate argument of, "This guy's car was faster than mine," or "I don't have that car, so I can't go that fast." Here, your skill and determination are the driving factor as to whether or not you'll be faster than someone else. Of course, there are a few tricks you'll have to learn to be able to even get the best times in the game, and where there's competition, there's also cheaters. I'll talk more about those two later on though. Now, story mode for Distance is really open-ended. The game doesn't have a direct story, but instead gives you pieces for you to figure it out. You start in this space station, which is functioning correctly in some sectors, but has malfunctioned in others. You have to drive through pretty much every sector in order to beat the first of 3 campaign modes. There are references made throughout your time playing about her. Who or what is her? Well, I really never understood this about English. Sometimes people will refer to a specific inanimate object in the female. So what her is Earth. That's why some posters around the stations will say beyond her, beyond Earth. Of course, not knowing what year Distance takes place in, I don't know what message and emotion they're trying to encapsulate here. Anyway, if you're playing a racing game, you're probably not that interested in the story, so they made a good call not making it in your face or even necessary. You can race every track in the game not giving a care about the story, and you'll be no worse off for it. Put it this way, things happen. There are also 2 more campaign modes. The second one, Lost to the Echoes, takes place before the first and shows premonitions of what will come. And the third, Nexus, sees you, the final hero, face the threat once and for all by uploading a virus into Array. There is a hidden 4th campaign, but this one is a single map that can only be unlocked by finding the hidden crabs in the maps of the second campaign, Lost to the Echoes. I don't really think I should talk about this one here, so I'll just leave you with, if you want all the achievements for this game, you will have to learn about the other side. Something that I'll talk about in another video. I'll also talk a bit more about Lost to the Echoes later. Right, so now that I've gotten the obligatory things out of the way, this game is really fun. I mean, really fun. Distance is the kind of game that you'll say just 5 more minutes, and before you don't know it, it's been several hours. It's the kind of fun where if you're trying to set a record and you just need a little bit of luck to get past this thing, you'll keep at it and get even more focused along with a bit irritated. Distance is the kind of game where you play all day, go to sleep and dream of playing, and then wake up wanting to get back to. There's just nothing quite as stimulatingly gratifying and exhilarating as doing some insane things in this game. One could say Distance is the perfect drug and the players are addicts. Now, I mentioned that there are certain things you'll have to learn to become the best. One of those is upside down flying. Whether this is the actual name in Distance, I really don't know. But to do this is a matter of jumping, rolling your car halfway, then pushing the thruster down, L1, to carry you along in the air. This is different from flying in that flying uses wings, which by their very nature cause a small amount of drag. Using this upside down thruster mechanic means that you have the same aerodynamic ability as you do on the ground, so it won't generate as much drag. Contrary-wise, in several instances, doing this is really more for showboating rather than for any practical reason. Really, it depends on who's doing it and when it's being done. Still, I can't deny that it looks cool and is necessary when flying is disabled or when you need more speed than you can get through flying. Distance also has an arcade mode where you can race in one of 3 events. Sprint, which is a simple point A to point B race. Challenge, which is basically the same as Sprint but generally shorter tracks and you only get 1 life. And Stunt, which involves you flipping and flopping the car all around and about to get a high score. All races race against the clock to earn medals. While not exactly time trials in that you have infinite time, but a time trial is basically what it is. The worst you can do is not achieve a medal at all, by taking so long or doing so poorly to beat the track that it's just not worth even acknowledging your time or score on the rankings. Next is bronze, which is the lowest medal, silver, which is the middle, gold, which is the best, then diamond, which is actually 100% better than gold. A race won with diamond is considered 200%, and a level set where you earned all diamond is considered 200% complete. Diamond does not show up until you achieve a diamond time or score, so you have to go by other players' times to determine how good diamond really is, if you want to go for it. Also, once you achieve diamond on a track, that's really as good as it gets. There are no other medals that you can achieve, and the only reason to keep going is to achieve the best time in history. Though that said, if you want to get diamond on every race in every mode of the game, you're going to be in for quite a challenge. You're going to have to get good and get lucky. Trust me, because I've already done just that. As of 11:15 p.m., March 25th, 2023, I have achieved every single diamond medal in the base game as it exists at the time of recording. That's sprint, challenge, and stunt. If I did it, you can too. If you need help with diamond medals, just have a look at my replay and try to do what I did. You can also race or view any replay in the database with the push of a button, just as it should be. But there are detriments to this system. On that note, I should also mention if you watch someone else's replay in distance, keep in mind that the replay isn't actually playing the game the same way one actually would. Replays are kinda glitchy and not to be taken as one-to-one, and are primarily for reference. That said, if you ever think someone is cheating on a track, for example because his or her car didn't explode due to overheating when it should have, that's honestly 50-50 because the replay is glitching at that point and probably didn't load in the correct cooling. Or maybe he or she actually did cheat, who knows. The most common issue in replays is fishtailing, which obviously didn't happen in the original race no matter who did it or when. The best way to tell if the replay is just being off is to see if other people, taking the same route, have the same thing happen to their cars. Remember, once is an anomaly, twice is science. Now if you played every single race in distance and still want more, there's a pretty active Steam workshop that you can subscribe to and download a lot of user-made maps, as previously mentioned. However, if those don't really strike you as that much fun, there's also Trackmogrify, which allows you to put in numbers, words, or phrases and generate a track. There's a functionally infinite number of tracks that you can play in this game using Trackmogrify. To put it bluntly though, you'll grow bored of this game long before you exhaust even a trillionth of every single possible track in Trackmogrify. You can also make your own tracks with the built-in map creator. Admittedly, I've never used this, and it looks kind of complicated, but I'm sure it's about as easy to use as Portal 2's map creator. Now we should start talking about cheaters. In my time playing distance, I've found quite a few scores in different modes that were not set by a human, were humanly impossible, and or were cheated. For instance, in Stunt, a guy by the name of Alex2216 got a 1,316,247,886 point run on the first track called Atrium. Now this would be all well and good if the second place wasn't over 1.2 billion points under the first. What makes this worse, if you check the replay, Alex2216 only got 113,330, which isn't even impressive. That means he inflated his score somehow by 11,614 times. I mean, I guess if you're gonna cheat, make sure it's blatantly obvious, right? That way maybe you can get away with calling it satire or ironic later on. I mean, really, it's not like any of us actually care about our achievements or scores or anything. Now, you might say that this was a freak glitch and Alex2216 happened to get a score that messed up the system somehow. Despite the fact this isn't possible, being as there are countermeasures designed to specifically assure that's not possible today, okay, sure, let's go with that. Now my question becomes, how did he get over a billion again on the second, third, and fourth levels, Neon Park, Stuntwear 2051, and Spooky Town? His actual scores on each were equally unimpressive. My score on Atrium presently is only 840,767. I say only because that was my first time seriously playing a stunt level ever, and I still got Diamond. Then you have this final one, Krabis Atsis Kralis on Shallow, with a time of 1.46 seconds. But when you watch his replay, the final finishing time is 1:43.72. First place. How? Honestly, I do not know. But my point being, never mind the time, he cheated! His car goes way too fast and didn't explode from overheating. I think that maybe Krabbis gave himself a time of 1.46 seconds somehow, but again, I do not know. My point with this being, if you allow cheaters to have high scores on the leaderboards, what exactly is my incentive to do better than getting diamond? What's the point in even trying if someone can have a score of 1.5 seconds on a track that takes for 99.9% of all players at least 1 minute? This leads me to the absolute icing on this cake, Dark Angel. Dark Angel is, as best as I can tell, a TAS, a tool-assisted speedrun bot. Dark Angel has, in every last replay I've ever seen, never once to this day done anything that I could consider human. So while I did say replays are for reference, they also contain enough data to actually show if the player is human or not. Dark Angel's paths are direct, its movements are robotic, and its soul non-existent. Now, Dark Angel isn't first on every race, which tells me that there are other TAS bots, or someone may have actually done this. But my point isn't that the time is unachievable, it's that Dark Angel isn't a human player. We, the legitimate players of any given game, deserve to have honest leaderboards. If there's a way to exploit the game, it should be open for everyone to use, and ones that cheat or use bots should have their scores and times either removed or moved elsewhere. To be honest, I'd sell for an asterisk next to the name/score for questionable, and everyone gets an asterisk until his or her run is verified. Then we have other times without a public replay. How can you verify the time without a replay? Those should be taken down. I don't know how big a replay file is, but I guarantee it's not big by any stretch of the word, even by 1990s standards. Despite the clear cheating and bot problem, if you're only planning on playing the game casually or offline with a group of friends, that won't be an issue for you. That said, Distance is a great game that deserves more love and appreciation. Hell, Distance even supports VR, though I haven't been able to actually experience that. From what I've seen, it's not really worth it, but it's still nice that it exists. Now, this all having been said, I don't have anything against Distance. Like I said before, where there's competition, there's inevitably cheaters. Suggesting otherwise is tantamount to insanity. Rules and regulations are the only ways we have to deter cheaters, but they'll always crop up. So I really can't count the cheaters against Distance, but I certainly can offer suggestions as to how to combat them. That said, Distance gets a great 9 out of 10. When it comes to racing games, Distance is tight, responsive, and just damn fun to play. I'd be remiss if I focused only on the detriments of Distance, and not how fun and enjoyable the game actually is. If you're not going into this game to be the best, which you shouldn't be, Distance is a great game and well worth the asking price of $25 US. Distance is something you have to grow into, in my opinion. The best way to describe how it feels to play Distance is to show you the final track, White Lightning Returns, of the 4th sprint level set Overload, and just tell you it feels exactly how it looks. This game is amazing. Sometimes inconsistent, but amazing nonetheless. The developers also wanted to port Distance to PS4, but for some reason or another that just never happened. To this day, I don't think there's been an official reason as to why. PlayStation still has the Distance trailers on their YouTube page, promising that it's coming 2015 to PS4. There is at least one website that claims that PS4 version does indeed exist, but this is simply not the case, at least not yet. Why Distance never came out on PS4 is, as far as I can tell, simply down to the fact that it was too much for the PS4 to work reliably. Now that the PS5 is out, but more importantly available, I don't really see a performance reason that Distance for PS5 can't exist. But that's still up to the developers to actually make and release. The last official thing I found about Distance's release dates to before the Steam release, so we may simply never know. Distance does run off the Unity 5 engine, so it should be easy enough to port. In any event, I would love to see Distance on consoles, but I also understand that may never happen. The final thing I should mention about Distance is that it's the successor to Nitronic Rush, a racing game from around 2010 to 12 made by the same studio, though at the time a group of college students in Seattle, Washington. Fortunately, you can still find Nitronic Rush, but unfortunately, since it wasn't built using any real engine, it doesn't have some of the niceties that we're used to now, such as PS4 controller support. Now instead you have to play this game, in my case, with a controller converter that acts like a wired Xbox controller. Also, Nitronic Rush lacks a lot of the abilities that's in a successor, such as forced downward thrust and fine vehicle turning. It's also weird to use the right stick for rolls and flips instead of that being automatic when you're in the air. Though for what it is, a tech demo, it really is great. But if you have the ability, play Distance instead. The reason I say that is mainly the story of Nitronic Rush is essentially the second campaign, Lost to the Echoes, which is included in Distance anyway. The music also sounds about the same as Distance, though maybe a slightly different master. Nitronic Rush is, at this point, little more than a stepping stone as to what Distance is now, but it is really important to remember where projects came from and what they stood for. Nitronic Rush set out to be a survival racing game, and it did that job well. Not perfect, but well. Distance obviously did it better. Still, Nitronic Rush is worth a look if you're into older free indie games. Link in description. I will say, since Distance lacks any of the heads-up display, Nitronic Rush actually did answer one question I always had about the game. How fast is the car actually going? If Nitronic Rush is to be believed, the highest speeds are around 275 to 300 miles per hour, which is around what I thought. So, to round off, Distance is something that you should play if you're into speed-oriented racing games. There's nothing quite like it, and Distance, even at full price, is worth every penny if you're out to get all the medals and experience everything this game has to offer. That said, I'm Dark Lord Elliot, and we're done here. Thanks for watching, and good luck getting those diamond medals. Oh, I read that wrong.